Listen to the Vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. I'm very happy to welcome all the way from South Africa, Louise Mowbray. And she is a consultant for Mowbray by Design and an author, keynote speaker. And you do a podcast as well?
Yeah, occasionally. I wish it was a little more often, but yeah, occasionally.
Well, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Thanks, Carl. It's so lovely to be here. And what would you like to know? Gosh, where would you like me to start?
Well, how did you get into all of this? And explain exactly what it is that you do.
What I do, absolutely. So I founded a consultancy, future-focused conscious leadership consultancy in London in 2005. And that's really been the journey ever since. But before that, I started my career in the investment banking and then technology and then executive search sectors. And then I actually founded one. So I moved from sort of listed big corp life into doing something a little more entrepreneurial, which I absolutely loved. And then I lived in the Middle East for a few years and did something completely different. I was managing director and set up the operations for a British luxury lifestyle company across the region. So got to know the region really well, which was just an incredible experience. And then went back to London and founded this company. And I think that the people connection, which is really what my business is all about, kind of happened for me in executive search. I really started to understand how business works, how cultures work, how careers work, how people work, certainly in their working environments. And I knew that, when I went back to London in 2005, I knew I only wanted to do what I was deeply passionate about, and that was helping people and organizations to grow. I just didn't quite know what form that would be in. And started coaching reasonably early on and started lecturing for some business schools and eventually thought I've got to get a qualification. I can't just keep going without a qualification. So did an ICF qualification. I was very lucky. I sometimes believe, well, I absolutely believe that when the student is ready, the teacher arrives in some form. And I found consciousness coaching found me. And that was in about 2010. And I sort of tuned into something that I innately knew and felt all the way through, and something that I'd honed without even realizing it. And that is helping people to really kind of shed some of the conditioning that we all have growing up with, and to step into, I guess, a more sort of a golden thread of who they really are and who they wanted to be, and find a clearer way forward. And at the same time, I switched on to conscious business, which was, in those days, it was very much a nice to have rather than a must have. And it took a pandemic, the luxury of a pandemic, to bring it to the fore. And I think today we're much more conscious about purpose-driven business. And of course, we understand what's going on in terms of climate change and the world that we're living in. And there are so many people today who are driving all sorts of purpose-driven organizations. And then I came across futures thinking and strategic foresight, which is the ability to think in multiple futures. Because, of course, our old way of looking at the world, which was very linear, and we could kind of almost predict what may happen in 3-5 years' time, has really disappeared. The things change far too quickly. Things are much more mutable, and we need to be able to dance with whatever's coming our way much more fluidly. And that led me into exploring a whole lot of stuff around complexity. What is complexity? What are we dealing with? What is uncertainty? And and as a result of all of those years exploring a whole bunch of different things, eventually decided, right, it's time to write the book, which I did at the beginning of last year. And I'm sure that many of your listeners have written books themselves or given it a bash. And it was the most extraordinary experience, because I started writing and then the book wrote me. It wouldn't let me go. So it was kind of a crazy year. It ate up all my time, and I loved every second of it. So yeah, and here I am sitting chatting with you today.
And you co-authored a book as well?
Yeah, maybe that was the thing that kind of sparked it. I belong to a global sort of action-based think tank, and that started at the start of the pandemic to try and make sense of what's going on in the world. And it was the most amazing collaborative effort I've ever been involved in, because it took 30 authors to actually bring this book together. So I was one of many. And I volunteered to be on the actual advisory kind of board in terms of getting this book out. And very seldom do a whole bunch of people who are involved in completely different businesses, have nothing to commercially to do with one another, come together to produce something like this. And it was just an incredible experience. And I think that probably lit the fire, which then led me to keep going and write my own.
Do you help small businesses as well?
Yeah, for me, it's not so much about the size of the organization. I work with a variety of organizations in all sorts of different countries and cultures and industries. It's more about the thinking. I'm a great believer, after all these years working with people in different contexts, that how we think rather than what we think, which we can always learn, kind of smooths the way, opens the doors. It opens up a future that we might not have known about if we just focused on the what. So for me, it's more about working with people who are determined to actually build a future that they desire, rather than perhaps just being swept along by the wave of change.
What would be the core, the foundation?
Yeah, so whenever I work with individuals or teams, companies, it's really about, what is the purpose of that organization? What is it that they're trying to solve into in the world? And they're pretty clear on that usually. And then, of course, the key thing is, well, how do we prepare ourselves? How do we think in a way? How do we build some lenses on the world so that we can actually think about things in a way that allows us to achieve what it is we've set out to do? So, there are very few people who build companies, whether they start off pretty small or medium size or major organizations, that don't have some sort of clear objective in mind. It may get pretty muddy at times because the world, is changing enormously, constantly, and things are thrown up and in our way. Whenever we think we have a clear route to something, we land up with something going on in the world that has an impact directly or indirectly on us. And how do we find the space in our own minds and with one another, working as a team, to be able to navigate that a lot more fluidly? So each client that I've ever worked with has, of course, their own particular set of circumstances, their own issues, their own challenges, their own opportunities. And, I'll tailor something to actually work specifically with them, rather than, trying to slap a 5-step process on everybody. But without a doubt, at the heart of all of it is developing ourselves, self-awareness, self-knowledge, self-mastery, and creating some space within ourselves to allow us to, I always talk about dancing, because for me it's, we need to dance a little more lightly with what's going on around us. And those people who I've witnessed over even just the last 19, 20 years that I've had this particular consultancy, who seem to do best in business and in life, are those who've actually invested in developing themselves. And, as far as teamwork is concerned, really not just talking about collaboration, but actually doing the doingness of collaboration, being able to work well together. And that's there isn't much that we can't overcome if we think in a certain way and if we're able to work well together.
I think one thing that concerns a lot of people is Well, developing technology and AI, there's a lot of jobs out there that are being replaced by robots, basically. It's a lot of the food places. We actually had one in Austin where a robot brings your food out to you. There, you've gotten rid of the server. I do realize that new technology's been coming in for a long, long time, and people were always worried, oh, this is going to take over people's jobs, but there'd be a new kind of job that would pop up. I'm not real familiar with AI, but I'm sure somebody's got to be in charge of it. I guess that's a new position that just opened up. Maybe replacing somebody else, but you're giving somebody else a job. Do you deal with that?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, one of the chapters in my book, I've written about, how do we live and work and lead in an AI-infused world? And I think that, we've got to, there are two parts to this. One is that fear sells well. So clicks, likes, and shares are stimulated, and the advertising revenue is stimulated by robots stealing our jobs or AI stealing our jobs. And we've been hearing this narrative for, over a decade. So, that narrative isn't new. And fear-mongering is the greatest way to grab people's attention. So, we've got to ask ourselves, do I want to be prodded and poked by every single crazy headline that arrives? Yes, AI is a part of our lives. It already is. I mean, we're all sort of, there are not many people who don't use a smartphone. Depending on the country you are in the world, that's everything that you use, every service, your banking, perhaps even ordering a takeout, everything has AI built into it. So I think the big sort of flash was the surprise of us being able to actually kind of interrelate with generative AI when, of course, ChatGPT was originally launched. And since then, we've seen so many different iterations and what have you. So it's been cooking a long time in the background. It's not just, a sudden sort of flash. Will it change our jobs? And I think this is a really important question, Carl. And I think it'll change rather than replace jobs. So yes, I could send you today a hologram to come and sit and have a conversation with you. And I could go off and have dinner and, meet some friends and do something else, fully trusting that that hologram is a representation of me and will say and do all the right stuff. But would I do it? Technology is so interesting. There are always new technologies. I mean, every time we blink, there's something else. But human beings are amazingly adaptable, number one. Number two, would we actually use it? So yes, we might have cameras built into our spectacles or our sunglasses or whatever the case may be. But will people accept being filmed all the time through someone else's glasses? Or accept, meeting with my hologram? Or maybe you'll send my hologram to meet your hologram. So, there's so much that is possible in technology that is already very well developed. The question is, would we want it? We want connection. We want to relate. We want to sit. And I mean, even now, you and I are able to relate somehow, sitting at, opposite ends of the world over this wonderful technology that's afforded us the ability to do that, which we wouldn't have been able to do before. So there's some amazing upsides that of course, we enjoy. But I think when it comes to jobs or parts of our jobs, we really have to, there's a determination that each one of us needs to have. And that is that we place human beings at the center of our universe. And of course, animals, living things, nature, we can't exist without any of that. And that technology serves us rather than it, being the opposite way around. And I think that is something that all of us need to be determined to do. So yes, can you take away the drudgy parts of my job that I don't want to have to do every day and repeat for the next 10 years? Fantastic. All of us would embrace that. And we already have in so many different ways just think of, I keep talking about smartphones, but it's the most obvious one. I left home oh, actually, I went to visit a friend the other day and left my phone, and it was a good half an hour's drive. And I was thinking, can I survive till tomorrow morning? Or do I need to get back in my car and drive and pick up this, this thing that I'm kind of married to? And of course, I got in my car and I drove and picked it up, because the truth is that actually just getting the stuff done that I want to every day, I'm happily use this thing to make my life easier. So would we make our jobs easier? And I think that there's a huge amount of responsibility around ethics and AI, because unless we are designing things with the human being at the center, and we call that, intelligent augmentation, so IA rather than AI. So how do we augment what we're doing to actually leave us free to do the things that human beings are brilliant at doing? The creativity and connection and ideation and all of these incredible things that are unique and so rich in terms of human beings. And the key thing is, do we value that stuff? For so long we've been told that productivity is so important, and the machine metaphor has ruled in terms of how much more of this job can I do faster. Well, nothing can ever do it as fast as robotics or AI. That's the simple truth. But I've got to tell that AI or those robotics what needs doing, and for that I need to be able to think. So AI needs human interjection and creativity and thought and ethics and philosophy and all those beautiful things that make this, this everything that we do every day is so enjoyable. And we've got to be pretty determined about putting the human being at the center of it. And for people who are perhaps, doing roles that involve being replaced by a robot, I don't know many restaurants that I'd be happy going into every day that I get served by a robot. Robots have been serving people in restaurants and working in hotels, and there've been so many experiments over the years. I think certainly the Japanese have been leading, and as far as that's concerned. So it's not brand new, but it might be fun for a novel experience. But do we want to chat to our server and connect? And it's part of the rich experience of going to a restaurant. So yes, technology, broadly speaking, is capable of so much, and we haven't even. There's so much that it's already there that's not even in our day-to-day lives. The question is, would we want to use it? And we've always got to balance those two kind of key points together in terms of what's coming next. If I had to advise people what to do about AI and their jobs and making sure that they're well equipped, I would say have a look at whatever it is that you love to do and figure out how you can use technology to make it better. So, perhaps turn it, instead of playing the victim to some, there is no God of technology. It doesn't exist. It's up to us to decide on how we want to use technology to make our lives and our roles richer and more satisfying on a day-to-day basis. And it's all perfectly possible.
We've got a place that we go and buy in bulk. It's called Costco. I don't know if you've heard of it, but
yeah.
Go in there and you can scan everything with your phone. And then when you get ready to leave, everything's on your phone. You pay for it just like that. And then you walk out. There's no human interaction. And I mean, it's okay, I guess, if you're in a hurry or just like self-checkout, you go through, get it done and leave, which is fine. But I'm that kind of person. I guess I'm just old-fashioned. I like to interact with the human. I'm going to go up and and I like doing this, going up and joking with the person that's at the checkout counter and asking them, how's your day? And you may change somebody's life just by asking them, how are you doing? There's no feeling when you're dealing with just a machine. I like to make the people laugh when I go up there. They'll say, do you want your milk in a bag? And I'll say, no, I like to keep it in the jug if you don't mind. It's a lot less messy. Dad joke, but they'll get a chuckle out of it. You don't get
Yeah.
that with a machine.
No, and I think, as much as our fascination with technology, it's like, wow, this, I got served by a robot. It's fun for a minute, and being able to self-serve, scan, get out. I mean, a friend of mine, quite a few years ago, sent me a photo of, maybe it was Costco even, and it was just row upon row upon row upon self, checkout aisles with not a single human being inside. And she said to me, this is the most soulless experience I've ever had shopping. Yeah. And I agree with you. And, so the key thing is sometimes we just want to go in and, buy our bulk toilet rolls because somebody shouted about some new virus and we're all, we've all lost the plot. And other times, actually, what we're looking for is human interaction. So, the key thing is that it's about having that choice, right? So if I walked into Costco with my app and I said, okay, great, but I need some help. And I hit a little button on the app that said, is there a human who can help me? And somebody showed up. Fantastic. I mean, that for me is true service. And we're serving human beings. We're not serving a production line in a factory. We're just not. So I suspect, and I mean, who knows? I'm a futurist, but futurists don't predict the future. But often, we can find some sort of common thread, but I suspect that the value of human interaction will go up because there are just so many cold, soulless experiences we want day to day. We don't, what we're looking for is connection and humor. And, if you made somebody laugh, well, you probably both got a lovely hit of serotonin and some oxytocin. There is the way the human mind works, the way that our bodies work, the way that we are holistically, is that's what we want. Sometimes we're too busy, we don't want it. We just want, we want to drive up and through a drive-through and have a machine put our drinks and our food and on a little tray, and we pick it up and off we go. We're in a crazy hurry. But I think we'll land up with choice so that, if we want that human interaction, then we have somebody who's purely dedicated to actually creating a connection and helping us to get what we need. And possibly they will be less stressed by the mechanics of running around doing the sort of boring, repetitive things. And their focus will be, even more so on creating that interaction and that connection between people. So yeah, I think the value of human connection for me over time, once we keep getting over these, oh my gosh, we can do this, and oh my gosh, we can do that, but do we want to, And I'm hoping that we'll start building that choice into the systems, the automated systems that we're so enamored with every time something new comes out.
And those chat bots, that's another thing that drives me nuts. Okay, yeah, I can get some pretty cool stuff from it. If I'm looking for maybe a title for a show, they'll give me some pretty good ideas, but I will ask a question and it's not getting the gist of what I'm trying to ask. Whereas if I was to explain it to you, you'd probably get it, even though I'm not the best communicator in the world. But
that's not true.
But these chat bots, they don't understand what you're trying to get at. So
so I'm going to give you an alternative view on that. And because I travel quite a lot and I'm in different countries and often I'll interact with customer service. The other day I had an experience where I did something terrible to my website and I crashed it, which is, there we go. It happens like once every few years, you do something, they always say, what is it? It's a user problem. Anyway, I was the user, I was the problem. So I got hold of the hosting company and I'm immediately chatting, help, can you reinstall a 24-hour backup and put things back into the way that they should be? And I had the best interaction I've had in a long time with customer service of any sort. And then eventually I said, could you please put me back in touch with the chap I was talking to earlier? And I gave the name and they said, oh, I'm sorry, I'm a chatbot. What I'll have to do is raise at a level so that you can talk to the person. And I said, oh, fantastic. Thank you so much. And I was thinking, wow, that is the best chatbot experience I've had. And often with customer service, every experience is different. I think they're getting better and better. I think certainly in different countries with different accents and different understandings and the first level customer service doesn't always have the depth of access to previous records or previous conversations or previous inquiries. And you can take an awful long time, swanning around on the surface before you get frustrated enough for them to raise the query with somebody more senior who's got access to, perhaps a history that they haven't. So I think it's up to us to design the systems to serve the customer, to serve the client, to serve the human being. We're not serving another, AI interaction. If we were, probably things would just be clean cut, and we don't need to bother with the niceties of language and trying to satisfy all the quirks in humanity. But if we're designing something to serve human beings, then it's up to the designers to design it in a way that makes it a really pleasant, easy, kind of seamless, gosh, that was refreshingly easy and good. And having had an experience like that recently and having experienced what you've experienced, I can say that, yes, I think they'll just get better and better. And it may be frustrating, but sometimes talking to human beings who are not able to help either is enormously frustrating too. So let's see. I mean, technology should serve us and the purpose of why we are doing business with that organization. And if it doesn't, we'll probably take our business somewhere else.
Well, I want to meet that person who can make a chat bot that can talk with people from Texas, because we have our own way of talking.
Well, once you're offline, I'll give you the name of the hosting company. They seem to get it right. And very good. And I think they're an American firm. I'm calling from London, and today I'm sitting in South Africa. How do you traverse all of these different, if you're going to be a global company and offer global service, you can better build in the nuances that allow you to deal with people from Asia, from people from South America and Africa and Europe, as well as wherever it's built. In this case, it was the US.
Do you work with individuals?
Yeah, I do. So I coach individuals one-to-one, and then I work with teams in organizations. Yeah, absolutely.
So what is your website?
It's the one I crashed. It's it's okay now, thank goodness. But it's mowbraybydesign.com. So that's my surname, bydesign.com. And if anybody wants to reach out to me, there's some contact details. I think all good things start with a conversation. So very happy to have a chat with anybody.
And what is your social media?
So probably LinkedIn is the platform I use the most. I think it's just about our only business platform at the moment for people like me. And my handle is Louise Mowbray.
Well, I'm going to put all those links in the description just to make it easy for folks to find you. Louise, thank you so much for spending your time with me today.
My pleasure, Carl. Thank you so much for being such a brilliant host.
Appreciate that. And also want to thank all you folks out there. If you are new to the channel, I hope you'll come back. Please hit that subscribe button. And for my regulars, you guys are awesome because you make it possible for me to do this. And until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network